Hey everybody, what is going on? This is Yuri with the GT Nuts Superfan program. Today we're doing a long-term follow-up, actually a long-term bike check, or an updated bike check on my 2013 GT Zaskar Elite alloy. 5 foot. I keep saying I'm 5'6". Yeah, I'm 5'6". Yeah. And this is size small frame. It doesn't. If you get the larger, like if you go a medium or even and above, you will get the triple triangle design. This one you don't. I think I want to say even for the extra small, it's the same thing situation as this one. But anyway, let's go over the bike. I'll let you guys and from front to back, and I'll let you know what I've updated and kind of what's remained the same. So here I like running these fixation bar end plugs. They're really good quality. Yeah, like you can find them I think for about $15 roughly if you like at a bike shop. Here same thing, and then of course my favorite grips you'll find on like every single bike that I own, which is almost every single bike that I own, which is the Race Face half Nelson grips. They're lock-on grips. Even when you can ride these barehanded, they're not going to tear up your hands. I mean, I think they don't wear out that fast either. I think they wear down pretty reasonably. And plus, when it's wet, it's still tacky. So that's what I enjoy about these. Here, I'm running a 35 millimeter handlebar clamp diameter stem. It's a V2 Pro with a 45 millimeter length here. So, and the reason for that is I like my cockpits kind of a little more stout or short. So, that way if I hang in the back, especially for trial stuff, it feels just kind of feels nice. And of course the FSA headset that's been on the bike since it arrived, like stock. Here, as you can tell, I've upgraded to Mt5 brakes. These brakes, as you can tell with a lot of the bikes that I own, I love the Magura 4-piston brakes, whether they're the 5s or the 7s. I think between the 5s or the 7s, I actually like the 5s a lot. The only difference is you don't get the tool-free adjustment, so you have to take your multi-tool and adjust here for your lever reach, and it's not that big of a deal. If you're really picky about it, then go with the 7s and get the HC1 levers, and that will do you just fine. Here I managed to swap out the RockShox 100 millimeter travel recon fork that had a 9 millimeter by 100 millimeter width axle, or quick release axle, with my friend Alan sold me this fork. It's a RockShox Yari. He sold me it for $80, which is, as all of you folks know, like a super bargain. And it was originally a 130 millimeter fork. I had Greg over at Butter Suspension. You can look him up, Greg McKenzie. I asked him if he could reduce this down to a 120, and he found the parts for it, made it happen, did a phenomenal job. So essentially, I got the fork for $80. I got the rebuild plus the rebuild, the shaft, the parts to reduce this down to a 120 millimeter travel fork, for I think altogether plus tax, Washington state tax, it's like $230 some. So it was a good deal. I love supporting the local businesses here whenever I can. And just to give you some details about it, this is the RockShox Yari RC. It's a now 120 millimeter fork. It's the Solo Air Spring. It's a 51 millimeter offset. It's the boost tub, and it can fit the 275 plus or 29er. This is obviously accommodating a 29er wheel on here. And here I run the Vittoria Mezcals here. These are the 29 by 2.25. I don't like to ride. I'm not on the big, super wide tire club like at all. I like a tire that feels nimble, and I like narrow tires a lot, just because a lot of my old school bikes run narrow, and I like how those feel. So I like that kind of. I mean, the grip would be nice, but I can't have my bike do everything for me either. So here I went with the gum wall. I love gum wall tires. Like, if I can get away with it, I'll get the gum wall tires. And this is a Stan's Crest, this is Stan's Crest MK3. Rimmed. This is a custom built wheel by the cool folks over at GHY Bikes in Renton. This runs on an SLX center lock hub. And I've got, because I didn't have a quick release part, I had to go buy this wolf tooth through axle for it. I love it. I may be upgrading a lot of my bikes to just this kind of style. I'm not a fan of the levers, just because I carry a multi-tool anyway. I guess I'd be out of luck if I forgot, but, you know, just, I guess that's a lesson learned. But in any case, and plus, you know, you run into other riders who will have a multi-tool. This will run a 6mm, just like your pedals, or just like my pedals. So I normally will carry one, and that's why. Here, another thing that has been, everything kind of has remained the same. I don't know if I've ever talked about this water bottle cage, which I enjoy a lot. I love the products by PDW, Portland Design Works. Look them up if you like this water bottle cage. This is called their Lucky Cat. They make it in this color. They make one in black. They make so many other cool metal water bottle cage holders. This is a side loader, and I mean, it's nice if you get into a crash and it gets dinged up, you can bend it back because it's a nice metal. But also, if you have certain odd water bottle cages, you can kind of push this or adjust this however you need. Obviously not to its extremes because it'll probably break, but I mean, that would be just ridiculous. But anyway, I love their water bottle cages. I think as my plastic ones break or wear off or whatever, I'm gonna replace them with PDW stuff. They are heavier, but you know, I mean, I'm a chubby dude, so if like I lost a pound of fat off my gut, then this is really not an issue, is it? So I always like to remind myself that before I get too caught up on weight. Here, this dropper is nice. It's a Pnw dropper. This is their Pnw Coast external route dropper. I replaced the KS Lev on here because it was just getting I don't even know how to explain it. I went for a ride. But that's why it's all dust and cruddy right now. But there's just no comparison between the two. I've had this throughout the winter. It performed the same. Like, I mean, you can get consistent performance out of the Pnw. This is the Pnw Coast dropper. It's got 125 millimeters of adjustment. That I chose that. I you know, by preference. I just like this kind of, and the reason I have to do this style of dropper is there isn't routing down here, and I'm not willing to drill my frame to make it happen, especially if I did it wrong. So, and this is fine. The reason I do the electrical tape, this professional electrical tape job I got to redo again, is because, as you can see here, the zip ties keep the cable in place, and because of how steep the top tube is, the zip ties will slide all the way down no matter how snug you have them. So they vibrate out and down. So this tape keeps them in place, and of course you can replace it. It's not going to adhere to the frame, and you know, I can reseal this and or retape it. It's fine. I think I'll do Gorilla Tape or something just to keep it in place. I don't know. Here, still run the platform pedals. Oh, and of course, I've also attached the wolf tooth light action lever. I did buy this before I bought the Paul's component one that you've seen on my other Zaskar, and this is good. I think now I would go with this still feels fine, you know. The Paul dropper is very blingish, which is awesome. This is also fine too. You know what makes it special is if you crash, this breaks. This little plastic piece here, you can replace. It's $5 plus shipping and washing or whatever tax applies to you if it does. And it's still a good quality part. You can't go wrong either way. I just like the little more blingy stuff of the Paul stuff, so that, or call it component stuff. That's why. Here, still a center lock rotor in the back. McGraw Mt5 4-piston brakes have been very good to me. another Shimano XT rear derailleur non-clutch, and this is a 32 tooth race face, what they called an XC, race face XC crank, and I have the bash guard just because I do trial stuff and I picked this out. But one thing to be aware of is if you have this style of crank, this, I think it was, they don't make it anymore, but if you do have this crank and you're getting into problems where it comes to loose too many times, what you can do, retorque it down, add Loctite Blue, and let it settle for sit for maybe a day, or at least a day, and you shouldn't have it coming loose anymore. No matter how, if I torqued it to spec or didn't, it would always come loose, so that drove me nuts. And in case other people are running this into the same problem, add Loctite. They didn't say that in the owner, I did read the instructions, they didn't mention that, so I just tried that, and it's holding up very nicely, so I'm grateful for that. And this is the 32 tooth chainring. I just upgraded this recently. I had the guys at JHY sort this out because I was having problems and he didn't know the best way to do it. Or I didn't have the patience for it. I shouldn't say I didn't have the best way, but I just didn't have the patience for it. And plus I wanted to support during this time my local bike shop and kick them over some business. So I said, hey, I'm gonna drop off this bike, can you guys sort it out? Because I put in a bigger cassette. So originally on here was like a 34-36 Shimano, and I went with a 42 tooth because I asked AJ at JHY, I said, you know, how big can you go on these chain rings, like if you're upgrading, right, before it kind of becomes a PIA, you know, pain in the ass? And he said, yeah, he was like, I think 42 is a good number, and it has been, because if I shift this up, shouldn't be, look how good that is. They did such a great job. I love those guys. That's why I support their bike shop all the time, because it's hard to find a bike shop that you love, I think, these days. But here, as you can tell, you know, running a few extra teeth is really going to push the limits on this. And this is already running a wolf tooth goat link extension. So here's the hanger, this extension right into the derailleur part here. And you know, it's just like, I don't want to, I hate it. You know, I just hate having to try to do this stuff myself because I can never dial it in as good as they do. So I depend on their expertise. And this is a Sunrace 11 42 tooth, and I mean, this climbs incredibly well. So with this configuration, so 32 tooth, 42 in the back, and just awesome. And you know, I mean, it even shifts nice on the way down. I just put it in a center gear because every time I do it all the way at the bottom, I forget to shift it up. So yeah, that's the latest update I've done on that. And still run the Pro Logo saddle. I think when the time comes to replace this, I'd probably replace this with like an SQ Labs 661 saddle because they're comfortable. But this is the 147 width or millimeter wide saddle. Like, if you're gonna get a saddle, always it's super important to get your sit bones measured so you get the right saddle and you're not hurting your tush when you don't need to hurt your tush. So that's when you think about it, like, it only takes like a few minutes to measure your sit bones, especially if a bike shop's equipped to do that. If they, you know, because sometimes they have those little pads you sit on and then they just take a ruler and measure it out. They don't measure your butt or anything, they just measure the indentations your butt's made on a seat. And you know, I mean, that will save you probably hours of pain, you know, in recovery, and help up your recovery or whatever. But comfort is important, so take the time to take care of your butt and get your seat bones, your ischial tuberosity sorted, measured out, and get the right saddle. That's a good saddle though. I got that for like I want to say $35 on a deal. So and it was on eBay. I think there's a guy on eBay selling these for, you know, $35. I like them. I like the saddle. I've bought many, but now I've fallen in love with the 661 saddles because they're super light and they're really, really comfortable. And their customer service is pretty good. They reply, you know, pretty fast. So other than that, that is the latest updates I've done with the 2013 GT Zaskar Elite alloy. If you have any questions, parts, spec, the bike, whatever, feel free to reach out to me. I will, I'll always get back to you. Other than that, be safe out there. I know it's still crazy times. I'm trying to hopefully figure out how I can do a shredded edit, just because put out ride entertainment. Otherwise, we're going to be on like my 90th bike check and no ride videos. So I'll figure out something, like maybe trials at home video or whatever. But we will get through this together. Hang in there. I love you guys. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.